You're next. You've left your role as a partner at PwC to go work for Nigeria. You're leading the Fiscal Policy and Tax Reform Committee, and I recall being at the presentation at the Ikeja Sheraton when you presented the summary of the work you've been doing over the last year plus. A lot of work, I must say. While thanking you for the work you've done, we understand that the need for reforms are critical to fixing the economy, some of the problems that Rashid has very eloquently articulated. Given your experience so far leading this effort, what would you say are the main objectives for the tax reforms that your committee is championing today? And when we look across Africa, for example, and look at the sort of tax indices we see, are we able to learn lessons from some of these peer countries? If so, what are they?
Thank you very much, and thank you to AfriInvest for inviting me, and also for this very commendable project that you have done now for many years, and particularly the topic of this particular event. Let me start by saying that you're right, it's a lot of work that my committee has been doing. But I also have to put a disclaimer. So a number of things are attributed to my committee, which are not from my committee. The way you know if something is coming from my committee is we always share in advance. So we don't do anything that we haven't discussed with the people. We don't, as part of the learning from other environments, is that you cannot do fiscal policy and tax reform by doing surprises. Because you need a lot of data, you need evidence, you need consultation, and that's the only way your reforms can be enduring and your aspirations can then be accomplished. So I thought it's important to put that on the table. Having said that, so the work of my committee has three broad mandates. One is fiscal governance. Looking at how we manage our finances, our spending, our borrowing, the priority of spending, the efficiency of spending, and how we ensure coordination not only within the federal government but across subnational. And then respect for fiscal thresholds and consequences when they're not respected. The second one is revenue transformation. Nigeria is a poor country, even though many Nigerians don't like to hear that. The entire budget, including the supplementary, including all the 36 states, including all the 774 local governments, is under $40 billion. In fact, before the supplementary, this is not the revenue, this is the budget. The revenue is less than half of that amount. Kenya is $32 billion. South Africa is $130 billion. So it's a poor country, so which means while we are addressing all the issues around corruption, wasteful spending, inefficiency, we also have to recognize that it's a fundamental issue that we need to get the economy to work so that revenue can go up. The data we have seen has suggested to us that we are focusing our efforts around revenue generation in the wrong places, mostly at the bottom of the ladder, or we are taxing seed. For you to get a $1 trillion economy, you need the banking sector to thrive. You need the capital market to work. The banking sector is trying to recapitalize. They also need the capital market themselves. And the capital market needs the economy and policies to work in a consistent manner. So for us, revenue transformation is actually about looking at the tax system and saying, can we reconfigure it so that the burden of tax falls in the right places, not on the lower end of the ladder, including very small businesses. Beyond that, we also have identified that we can actually make more money from sweating government assets. So they are spread all over the place, they are not well managed, and some of them, people are taking advantage of that to enrich themselves. at the expense of the country. There's also the one around government-owned enterprises. So why is NNPC today not a global company earning Nigeria $20, $30 billion a year? There's really no reason why we're not at that level, and that's just one entity. And also we have the solid mineral and other natural resources. So we have these four important components to our revenue transformation journey. We are convinced that if we do the right thing, and they're not rocket science, that we can actually increase Nigeria's revenue to GDP ratio to up to 30% within the next 2 to 3 years. So the third and last component of our work is economic growth facilitation and competitiveness. And now this is the component of our work that recognizes the fact that if you have a poor country, it doesn't matter how well-intentioned you want to raise your revenue. People cannot give what they don't have. The best way to generate revenue in a sustainable manner is to promote prosperity for households, for firms, whether they are multinationals, whether they are local companies. And therefore, one of the philosophies we've set out to accomplish is that we will stop taxing capital. We will not tax investment. We will not tax production. Of course, we will not tax poverty. No country in the world has become wealthy by taxing poverty. It's a contradiction in itself. And above all, we will not tax seed. We will wait and invest with the Nigerian people and share the prosperity by way of the fruits when those investments begin to yield returns. So broadly, that's what we have seen. And we also are trying to harmonize taxes. I'll stop after this point because if you allow me, I'll spend all the time you have for the panel. We're trying to harmonize taxes. Today, we have over 60 official levies and taxes that people have to pay. Unofficially, it's more than 200, and I say this with all sense of responsibility, more than 200. Yet, South Africa, in their last fiscal year, collected from just one tax, personal income tax, more than 2 times what we collected from all taxes in Nigeria combined across all levels of government. Even Kenya collected almost 4 times what we collected in personal income tax in Nigeria. Kenya is 54 million people, equally poor. And customs, the value of imports in Kenya last fiscal year was $23 billion. Value of imports in Nigeria, $66 billion. Guess what? Kenya collected 3 times what we collected in import duties. So what that means is Nigeria should actually collect 9 times what we are collecting now, just from import duties. So there's a lot of room for improvement, and I know that with this improvement and the overall fiscal reform, we should be on our way to the $1 trillion economy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much. That was